If you are on a journey of trying to manifest your husband, or you're trying to enter your soft girl era, or you're just really trying to have a life that has more ease, then you're probably Googling a lot of information about feminine energy. And you've probably come up against a lot of stuff talking about wounded feminine energy. In this video, we're going to be talking about exactly what that is, my thoughts on it, because I think there's actually different categories of wounded feminine energy and how to start getting out of it depending on what category you are in. Hi, my name is Amanda Obeyo. Welcome to this channel where we talk about manifesting your dream life without all the extra chaos, stress, and drama that most people are accustomed to. Lately, because it's February, we've been talking a lot about how I manifested my husband, energy dynamics in relationship, masculine and feminine energy. We're just going with the theme of love and relationships. So if that's something that you are interested in, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we have coming out on this channel. And make sure to give this video a like. I've been forgetting to ask you guys to do that because it helps us to get it in front of more women who could use this information. And if you would like to take any of the things that I'm talking about in this video to the next level, you can find all the ways to work with me, all our programs, our free resources, other videos to watch. They will all be in the description below. So let's get into wounded feminine energy and what that is. And as I mentioned in the introduction, I actually think there's different categories of wounded feminine energy depending on where you are in your journey in this lifetime as a woman. And it may also depend on where you were born, what your culture is, and what you learned growing up at home and what you saw, because all of those things dictate how we behave as adults until we become aware of what is going on in our subconscious. So when people talk about wounded feminine energy online, they usually try and group all these different characteristics into one big giant group called wounded feminine. And in my 15 years of coaching women on their businesses, coaching men on their businesses, and hearing all their drama about their relationships for the last 15 years while I was doing this, I can tell you that in my experience, I honestly think that there are different buckets and different categories. So the first category of wounded feminine energy is probably the one that most people think of when they think of wounded feminine energy. So they think of the doormat, they think of the stay-at-home wife whose husband controls her every move, they think about the woman who doesn't know how to make money. They think about, another way of looking at it is they're probably at the lowest level of consciousness, which means that they're blaming everybody else for their problems. I would think that the martyr falls into this category. The people pleaser falls into this category of wounded feminine energy. And I'll actually give you an example of what this might look like from a woman. She was one of my first ever coaching clients. So listen to this story because I think it exemplifies this first group of wounded feminine, and I've got a couple of other stories that I've heard throughout the years as a coach. So as I mentioned, I spent a lot of time coaching women on money and their businesses, and inevitably all the relationship stuff would come up and we would have to talk about it and work through it, which got me very interested in masculine and feminine dynamics a few years later and how to use that in my own relationships. But I'm talking about someone that I coached over a decade ago when I was first in this. And back then I did not understand what was going on. Now, 10 years later, wounded feminine. I know for a fact she's in wounded, or was in wounded feminine energy of the first variety. So the first variety, like I said, blames everybody else for her problems. She's the person who asks 15 different people for their opinion before she decides to make a decision. She can't let go, right? Now, they all can't let go, but in the wounded feminine, here's a very specific example of how a woman was shooting herself in the foot. So this woman ran a marketing agency and she wanted to grow this business. She had been trying to grow this business for 5 years, and she was also post-divorce. She had been divorced for a few years, and she had the type of marriage where, because of the culture that she grew up in and where she was living, it was a more traditional type of relationship where the man made all the money and she was more of a housewife. However, because she was in the wounded feminine energy state, she ended up attracting basically a narcissist, right? Who would take advantage of her. They eventually got divorced, and she had been receiving this alimony check for a few years. And I was trying to get her to grow her business because that's what she had hired me for. And I started to notice that she was like doing all the right things, quote unquote. She would find tons of ways to sabotage as well. And I found that very interesting. And I thought to myself, there must be some sort of secondary benefit as to why this woman keeps sabotaging herself and not actually growing her business, even though that's what she says she wants to do. And what ended up coming up was that she was getting this alimony check from this ex-husband who was very controlling, controlled her whole life. She never had a voice in anything. She was never able to do anything that she wanted to do. She gave up her whole life for that man and her kids. And they end up divorced. He may or may not have cheated. I'm actually not sure, so don't quote me on that. I vaguely think he may have cheated in this relationship. And they end up getting divorced, and she's been getting this alimony check ever since. And I said, you gotta let go of the check. And she was like, what? Right? It says, you got to let go of the check. Now, I wouldn't always recommend that in relationships and things like that. But in the case of this woman, that alimony check was holding her back from actually making money and keeping her in that wounded feminine energy state. Not only that, every single time she got that check in the mail, she would be like, that son of a bitch, because she had so much resentment toward her ex-husband that she had still not let go of. Mind you, she was already in new relationships, she was already in new spaces, but because she would not let go of that check, because she didn't believe that she could actually do it herself, then she couldn't make more money, because if she made above a certain amount of money, she would lose the alimony check. The kicker is that the money she was getting from her ex every month wasn't that much money. It was literally half of my rent payment at the time, which is all relative. And I told her that, I'm like, that's really not a lot of money. That's literally my half of the rent when I was living in a condo in Miami. But she insisted on not letting it go. And it wasn't just not letting go of the money because she didn't believe that she could sustain herself. More deeply, it was not letting go of the resentment, right? Staying in that victim mentality. So never grew her business because she would not let it go. Another example would be someone that I had known for a while. She'd been in the coaching spaces for a while, and she just could not execute on a damn thing, right? It did not matter what she was doing, right? Come to find out, she'd been dating this guy for 5 years, who basically drained her of all the energy that she had because she was in a codependent, people-pleasing kind of relationship, and she paid all his bills. She was basically taking care of a grown man who was draining all of her energy and did not treat her as a feminine woman because she had to go in and save him. She had to go in and be the martyr. So of course it negatively impacted every other area of her life. And she, like the first woman in the example, also had issues with speaking up for herself, also had issues with making decisions, and generally did not trust herself or would get all wrapped up in her emotions and indulge in them and then not move forward. So that's like category number 1 of wounded feminine energy. Category number 2 of wounded feminine energy is the one that I was in for many years, which is the woman who is hyper independent. Oftentimes that ends up in hypervigilance in a lot of ways. The more masculinized woman, right? The woman who always needs to be in control to the point where she is controlling, usually the woman who is an achievement addict. So this woman, right, is probably in the second level of consciousness, which is more when you start taking personal responsibility for the results in your own life. And if you're like, if I'm going to be successful, by golly, I am going to make it happen, come hell or high water. It's a better place to be than in the first level of consciousness, which is where you have that first group of wounded feminine energy. The problem is that a lot of these women go into overdrive, as I did. We live in a world where in the career spaces and the work that we do, it tends to be a lot more masculine, and a lot of women have had to adapt to that. So that's a part of it. Other parts of it are conditioning from family. I'm actually a very feminine woman, but I was conditioned out of it for my own protection by my mother and grandmother. And now I know at least 3 generations back, the women were operating totally on survival programming for various reasons. And then the other thing that happens is like, these women become so hyper vigilant, right? Because they just go too far, that then to get them back into feminine is a different process, right? To get them into empowered feminine is a different process than in the first group. So in the first group, in order for them to actually get into an empowered feminine place from their version of wounded feminine, they actually have to get in touch with some more masculine traits, okay? So this is where they start taking personal responsibility for themselves and they stop blaming everybody else for all their problems. This is where they learn to take care of themselves. This is where they learn to make money, typically. This is where they learn to speak up for themselves. This is where they learn to get their shit together, in other words. Now, that will put them in a more empowered feminine place. Unfortunately, like I said, most women go too hard and then end up in the second group of wounded feminine, which is that masculine place. And again, it's not our fault. It's like we haven't really been shown how to do this stuff until relatively recently. So if you're talking about the second group of wounded feminine women, which is they're already taking personal responsibility, they're probably achievement addicts, they're probably making a lot of money, oh boy, they are still going to end up in relationships where they are paying half the bills or all the bills for a grown man. They are still going to stuff, in this case, it's not them wallowing in their emotions, they're actually stuffing down their emotions and how they really feel. And in this case, they're still being martyrs. It's just a little bit different, right? So usually in the first category of wounded feminine, where they have to get more in touch with masculine traits, they're the martyr and they're doing things for everybody else. And then they expect to get a pat on the back for it, or for people to like them, only for people to not respect them, right? So in the second category, they might get more respect from other people and they might get more respect from men, but that doesn't mean that their romantic relationships are doing well, because they're typically not, right? Because they're trying to take the same qualities that helped them make money and take those into a romantic relationship, and it is a different skill set. So for the second group of women, it looks like learning to chill out, which I know is difficult. I've had clients tell me I've been on overdrive for so long between running a business, paying bills, being a mom. I don't even know what I like anymore. I don't even know what relaxes me anymore. I don't even know who I am anymore. It's what a lot of women have told me in my 15 years of coaching. So take some time to figure out what that is. Slow down. Slow like all the way down. And at this point, what is probably going to come up for you, as it came up for me, is you're going to start to freak out, because you're going to start to feel like you are not safe. Because if you're slowing down, who's going to take care of you? If you're slowing down, who's going to pay the bills? If you're slowing down, how do you know that everything is going to be okay? That is hypervigilance, right? So we have to work on moving away from that hypervigilance. And I'm telling you this just so you know that it's not as easy as snapping your finger, because for a lot of you, as it was for me, the minute you start slowing down, your anxiety is going to start picking up, and that's exactly what you have to learn how to alchemize and transmute. You have to learn that you are being taken care of. Even if you are single right now, you are being taken care of by the universe, okay? So that's how you have to start framing that, and that's what I did for myself. The second thing that you have to learn how to do is you have to start learning how to receive again. You may have gotten good at receiving money, right? But it's come at a cost, right? And a lot of you still have people-pleasing tendencies. A lot of you are having adrenal problems. A lot of you are having hormone problems, because you're overgiving in your career, or to your kids, or to everyone but you. So you have to start learning how to receive again. I've said this story multiple times. I will keep repeating it over and over and over again. When I decided I was ready to manifest my husband and I had to heal my wounded feminine energy, I practiced receiving from the masculine in all ways. If a man wanted to fix my problem, I would let him fix my problem. If a mentor, if I had an issue with something and I had a male mentor at the time, I would ask that male mentor for help. If a man wanted to take me out to dinner and talk shop and pay for the whole freaking thing, I let him do it. If a man wanted to buy me a coffee because I was just sitting at the coffee shop reading a book, I would let him do it. If a male colleague wanted to give me like a free course that would help me with a particular problem that I was having, I would let him do it. I would receive all of those things from the masculine. 4 months after practicing that, I met my husband. So learning to receive. And then the last thing is learning how to surrender, which goes with the slowing down piece, right? You have to learn to surrender to what is. A big part of the feminine is being in the unknown. So the masculine, and those of you who are on overdrive with the masculine and you're in that camp of wounded feminine energy, usually you have to have everything planned out. You're very analytical. You cross your T's, you dot your I's. Every little detail is looked through. Every little thing is planned out. And then you take that into your relationships and every other area of your life and take that away from a man, which he doesn't like. Men like to do those things, believe it or not, but women keep taking the opportunity from them to do so. So you have to learn how to let stuff go. Right? We have a client who wants to take a week off from work, and I'm like, well, why can't you just do that now? She goes, oh, because all these fires are going to start are going to happen. And I'm like, yeah, you have to let the fires happen, because that's how you know what needs to get fixed in the business. Otherwise, you don't know. And it's interesting because she's had this pattern of every time she tries to take a step back, some problem happens, right? And she's not ever really able to take that step back. That's a belief about not being able to let go and surrender ultimately at the end of the day. That's a belief, not in her case, but I don't think, but for a lot of women, that would be perfectionism. Like, everything must be perfect. I must be the one who solves all the problems. I must be the one who does X, Y, and Z. I must be the achievement addict. I am the one who solves all the problems. Therefore, if I can't do it, no one else can do it better than me. And all that is your masculine being on overdrive, and it's wounded feminine energy, because and it's a lot of mental energy too. With the feminine, she knows how to get back into her body and slow down. She slows down how she speaks. She slows down how she moves. She slows down everything, really. And she learns to enjoy the moment rather than constantly living in her head. So, hope you guys found this video to be very helpful. Like I said, a lot of people talk about this online, but they group all wounded feminine women into one category. And in my 15 years of coaching women on money and business, their relationships, and all the stuff that would come up while we were working together, I believe there are definitely different categories of wounded feminine energy, and you just have to determine which one you're in, and then you'll know what to do in order to get out of it and move to that next level. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave a comment below with other types of videos that you would like to watch on this channel, if this was helpful for you or not. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, helps us with the algorithm. Subscribe, and make sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single video. And all the resources, courses, how to get in touch with me, all that stuff will be in the description below.